Hello and welcome to WION Live Broadcast. I'm Ollie Barrett, joining you from London, and these are the headlines. Indian Prime Minister Narendra Modi is set to hold virtual talks with US President Joe Biden. This ahead of the 2+2 ministerial dialogue. India's position on the Ukraine war and its decision to buy discounted Russian oil are expected to be discussed. UK Chancellor Rishi Sunak asks Prime Minister Boris Johnson for a review to determine whether he followed the rules on ministerial declarations. This after criticism over his wife's financial arrangements. French President Emmanuel Macron and his far-right rival Marine Le Pen prepare for a runoff in round 2 of the French presidential election, which the opinion polls predict could be much tighter than last time around. A Pakistan National Assembly session is set to elect a new Prime Minister. PMLN President Shehbaz Sharif is expected to take over as PM. And Tesla chief Elon Musk is no longer joining the board of Twitter, days after he disclosed picking up a 9.2% stake in the social media platform. And we'll start here in the UK, where the Finance Minister, Rishi Sunak, has asked the Prime Minister to launch a review of his financial interests. And indeed, in the last few minutes, we've heard from Downing Street that the Prime Minister has done just that. It comes after questions over the tax status of Rishi Sunak's wife, Akshata Murthy, who it emerged held non-domicile status in the UK. She now says she will pay more tax in the UK than she's actually required to do, but questions remain about the family finances, with the opposition Labour Party claiming there are a series of potential conflicts of interest. Akshata Murthy is the daughter of Indian businessman Narayana Murthy and owns about 0.9% in the Indian IT giant Infosys. The Labour Party says there have been a series of recent meetings between Infosys and the government. Rishi Sunak has also confirmed that he gave up a green card for the United States only after he became Britain's finance minister in 2020, which means he held permanent residency of the US for nearly 2 years as a minister. Well, correspondent Chris Jones, who is joining me live from London. Chris, first of all, explain that review process that the Prime Minister's now confirmed is going to go ahead.
Yeah, well, like you said only minutes ago, we've heard that the Prime Minister has confirmed that this independent investigation will go ahead into Rishi Sunak's declarations as a British minister. Lord Geidt is the independent advisor to Prime Minister Johnson on the ministerial code. He will take a very in-depth look into whether Rishi Sunak made all of his British ministerial declarations correctly and look for any wrongdoings. He will then release that report back to Prime Minister Johnson, who will then look over what needs to happen then, whether there are wrongdoings and any punishment needs to go ahead. Sunak, however, he's confident he's done nothing wrong. He tweeted not too long ago, he said, "I have always followed the rules and I hope such a review will provide further clarity." There are many, though, that disagree with that, especially amongst the public, who say that a lot of this tax row shows that it's one rule for them and one rule for the rest of us. But we'll wait to see what this investigation finds before any real judgment is made.
And in the meantime, Chris, what is the opposition Labour Party saying about all this?
Well, as you can imagine, Ollie, they've been pretty scathing about what has been argued over this tax row involving Rishi Sunak and his wife. Angela Rayner, the deputy leader of the Labour Party, she said that there's been a catalogue of potential breaches of the ministerial code here. Chris Bryant, he's also a Labour member of Parliament and a former deputy leader of the House of Commons. He drew comparison to the Owen Paterson scandal that we saw at the back end of last year, where he was forced to resign over lobbying rules. Now, this isn't exactly the same, but he argues that there's a moral argument here, and the things that have happened regarding Sunak and his wife potentially shouldn't have happened. And also from the public, there's been criticism as well. Should a minister who holds a US green card be in government in the role that he is? Now, if Lord Geidt finds any wrongdoings, this could really be quite catastrophic for his political career. He could be forced to resign from his role of Chancellor. He could also even be asked to resign from the government. But as I say, that investigation, independent investigation, I add, is ongoing. So we'll wait to see what the outcome is and what happens next.
Chris, thank you. That's Chris Jones reporting live from London. Next to the French presidential elections, and incumbent President Emmanuel Macron has come home in first place, ahead of far-right candidate Marine Le Pen in the first round of voting. More than 97% of the vote has been counted now. 44-year-old political centrist Macron is on around 28 to 29%, with Le Pen scoring 22 to 24% of the votes. Despite entering the campaign late and holding just one rally, Emmanuel Macron has performed slightly better than some expected. They will progress to a second round on April the 24th for what will be a repeat of the 2017 head-to-head contest. On April the 20th, a key moment potentially, the two candidates will take part in a live TV debate. President Emmanuel Macron has asked his supporters to make no mistake, as nothing, he says, is decided yet.
Alors, durant les 15 jours à venir, ne ménageons aucun effort car rien n'est fait. Soyons humbles, déterminés. Allons convaincre chacune et chacun. Le 24 avril prochain, nous pouvons faire le choix d'une nouvelle époque française et européenne. Le 24 avril, nous pouvons faire le choix de l'espoir. Le 24 avril, nous pouvons faire le choix de la France et de l'Europe ensemble.
Marine Le Pen is bidding to be France's first woman president. The French far-right presidential candidate has increased her first-round score based on the 2017 number. In the second round, she will hope to pick up votes cast for her far-right rival, Eric Zemmour. Le Pen has promised seismic shifts for France, both domestically and internationally.
Le peuple français s'est exprimé et me fait l'honneur d'être qualifié au second tour face au président sortant. Qu'il me soit permis d'exprimer aux millions d'électeurs qui m'ont témoigné leur confiance ma plus sincère gratitude. J'en mesure avec humilité toute la responsabilité.
Election season has kicked off in Australia as well. Prime Minister Scott Morrison has called for federal elections on the 21st of May, and political parties have started their campaigns in earnest. Morrison kicked off in Gilmore in New South Wales and will spend nearly 6 weeks on the road before the day of the vote itself. He's counting on the government experience of Conservatives and their COVID management, saying that the opposition Labour Party are untested and cannot be trusted with the country's money. Australia's unemployment rate has dipped to 4% in February and looks set to further fall into the 3% range for the first time since the early 1970s.
Our government is not perfect. We've never claimed to be. But we are upfront. And you may see some flaws, but you can also see what we have achieved for Australia in incredibly difficult times. And you can see our plan. Our plan will deliver more and better jobs and the lowest unemployment seen in some 50 years.
Well, even though Morrison does start as favourite on the first day of campaigning, he only has a thin lead over the opposition leader. A news poll survey showed Morrison leading with 44%, while the opposition's leader has a rating of 39%. The Conservatives are projected to lose more than 10 seats to the centre-left party. The Sydney Morning Herald predicts the ruling coalition could lose at least 14 seats in Western Australian states. Meanwhile, the Australian opposition has had an early slip, with the leader forgetting the country's unemployment rate during an interview.
National unemployment rate at the moment is, I think it's 5.4, sorry, I'm not sure what it is. Earlier today I made a mistake. I'm human. But when I make a mistake, I'll fess up to it and I'll set about correcting that mistake. I won't blame someone else, I'll accept responsibility. That's what leaders do.
Do you know what the figures are?
Yeah, it's 0.1 is the cash rate, which is very different from the interest rate that people pay, of course, and 4% is the unemployment rate.
I and the government are very sad and concerned that an Australian bipartisan, multi-partisan, unanimous.
All 151 seats in the lower house will be up for grabs. Morrison's Liberal National Coalition holds 76 seats, while Labour has 68 at the moment. 7 are held by independent candidates and minor parties.
And to the royal family in this, their time of grief. That takes a certain humility, as well as a deep understanding of what service truly means.
Questions without notice, the Deputy Leader of the Opposition.
I and the government are very sad and concerned that an Australian bipartisan, multi-partisan.
Now, weeks after Russia announced a change in military strategy in Ukraine, the Kremlin has now appointed a new general in command of Moscow's what it calls special operations in Ukraine. That is leading to fears that the war is about to get even more brutal.
Russian forces continued shelling targets in eastern Ukraine on Sunday, as Washington said it would meet Kiev's request for more military aid by providing the weapons it needs to defend itself against Russia. Russia has so far failed to take any major cities, but Ukraine says Russia has been gathering its forces in the east for a major assault and has urged people to flee. Since Russia invaded, Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky has pressed Western powers for military hardware and support and to punish Moscow with tough sanctions. U.S. National Security Advisor Jake Sullivan told ABC News Sunday, quote, "We're going to get Ukraine the weapons it needs to beat back the Russians to stop them from taking more cities and towns." Mounting civilian casualties have triggered widespread international condemnation and new sanctions. Russia calls its attack on Ukraine a special military operation and denies its soldiers have targeted civilians. But a grave with at least 2 civilian bodies has been found in a village near Kiev, a Ukrainian official said on Sunday, the latest such reported discovery since the Russian withdrawal from areas north of the capital. Ludmila Zabaluk, head of the Dmitrivka village department, said dozens of civilian bodies were found in the area.
There were more than 50 dead people. They shot them from close distance. There's a car where a 17-year-old child was burned. Only bones left. A woman had half her head blown off. A bit farther, a man lying near his car was burned alive.
Villagers in the Chernihiv region recalled surviving weeks of shelling by Russian forces from the cellars of their homes.
The shelling went through our house. My husband, children, and my daughter-in-law were all in the basement. We all ran out of the basement and started running in different directions to the road, all the while they were shooting at the neighbors' houses.
Sullivan said on Sunday he expected Russia's newly appointed general overseeing Ukraine, Alexander Dvornikov, to authorize more brutality against Ukrainian civilians.
Israel is on edge after 2 Palestinian women were killed on Sunday. These are the latest developments coming as tensions between Israelis and Palestinians have escalated in the holy month of Ramadan.
Palestinians on Sunday carried the body of a woman shot by Israeli forces. The Palestinian Health Ministry said the woman, in her 40s, was pronounced dead at this Bethlehem hospital in the occupied West Bank. The Israeli military said the woman had run towards soldiers at a checkpoint and did not heed calls or warning shots to stop. The military said no weapon had been found on her and that the incident was being investigated. Officials said soldiers also killed a second Palestinian woman that same day after she stabbed a soldier. In the Israeli city of Kfar Saba on Sunday, mourners buried 27-year-old Eitan Magini, killed last week by a Palestinian gunman. Israeli forces have been on high alert following attacks that have killed 14 people in Israel since late March. More than 20 Palestinians, many of them armed militants, have been killed by Israeli forces since January, while Palestinians have reported a rise in violence by Israeli settlers in the West Bank. In public remarks to his cabinet on Sunday, Israeli Prime Minister Naftali Bennett said security forces were aggressively battling what he described as a new wave of terrorism.
We will go wherever necessary at any time to cut off these acts of terror. The state of Israel has gone on the offensive.
Israel's defense forces on Sunday released footage of nighttime raids in the West Bank, showing them searching houses and taking blindfolded men into custody. The Palestinian Health Ministry said an Israeli raid on the West Bank city of Jenin left 13 wounded and 1 dead. Palestinian Islamic Jihad claimed the man killed as a member of the militant group. The raid targeted the home of a Palestinian gunman who killed Magini and 2 others in a bar on a crowded Tel Aviv street before being shot dead by security forces last week.
After buying the biggest stake in Twitter and then it being announced that he would join the board, he now won't after all. Elon Musk.
Twitter's biggest shareholder, Elon Musk, will not be joining its board. That's according to Chief Executive Parag Agrawal in a tweet on Sunday. Tesla CEO Musk disclosed a 9.1% stake in the platform last week and said he was planning what he called significant improvements to the social media platform. His appointment to the board would have been effective on Saturday. However, that would have also limited his stake in the company to not more than 14.9%. Without the board seat, Musk can invest beyond that cap. Agrawal said in his tweet that the board would remain open to his input. Musk limited his response to a face with hand over mouth emoji on Twitter, while Tesla did not immediately respond to requests for comment. Company insiders told Reuters that news of Musk taking a board seat had some Twitter employees panicking over the future of the social media firm's ability to moderate content. Musk frequently tweets about his company and other topics and has been known to leave people confused as to whether he is joking. He recently ran a series of Twitter polls to his more than 80 million followers, asking in one if they believed Twitter adhered to the principles of free speech, and in another whether the Twitter headquarters in San Francisco should be converted into a homeless shelter, an idea which Amazon CEO Jeff Bezos backed.
Now for our next story, we will take you inside an unusual museum. It's been specially designed for selfie lovers.
Museums are usually designed to celebrate the life and work of people or events. But the museum we are going to tell you about is quite unique. It has no work of art on its walls. Sounds bizarre, but that's how the museum in Stockholm has been built. Called the Selfie Museum, its brightly decorated rooms are meant to serve as fun backgrounds for smartphone self-portraits and videos. Museum has different environments for people to spend time in, like this emoji room. It's filled with blue and yellow balls with smiley and frowning faces.
So we're at Museum Stockholm at Mall of Scandinavia. We are an interactive social media experience. So we're in our first room, the emoji room. So here you can take cool pictures, create cool content for like your Instagram or your Facebook, or if you do TikToks, it's the perfect place to do TikToks.
Other rooms let you bury yourself in candy-colored foam sticks. Strike a pose under neon lights or sit on a giant pink swing for your next profile picture.
You have the lightning, you have the TikTok music, you have snacks, you have all the things we like. You don't have like 90s era or 80s era. You have the 2020 era, and I think that's good.
The museum, which is in a shopping mall, lets visitors be both the artist and the exhibit. This concept was first seen in Amsterdam in 2019. It has now spread globally, with locations to open in Germany and in the Middle East. Though many may scoff at the idea of a museum dedicated to the seemingly self-indulgent practice of photographing yourself, 70-year-old Professor Bill Bergwinkle, who was visiting with his teenage niece, was happy to embrace it.
I think it's too late to worry. I think that's the way the world is now. And I think in terms of setting a site for taking wild photos, it's kind of good. I mean, I think it serves its purpose.
Selfie has established itself as a form of self-expression. Whether you view it as a harmless fad or a sign of narcissism, it's clearly here to stay.
Well, there were a few selfies in London as celebrities and artists assembled at the Royal Albert Hall here in the British capital to celebrate the Olivier Awards. We'll leave you with the ceremony and the winners and some of the pictures. Do stay tuned to WION. I'm Ollie Barrett. I'll see you tomorrow.
This is the dream. For me, this is the one. This was the part that I played when I was a kid at school. It was the thing that got my passion for theatre really fueled.
This year's Olivier for Best Actor is awarded to Hiran Abesekera.
Wonderful, extraordinary parents. My Sri Lanka is going through a little bit of a tough time now. I think of you, and I wish I was there with you. Machanla Mangbalata Adre, Jayaveva, and my Life of Pi family. Yo, what's going on?